Hi guys, what we're going to be speaking about today is how to unmask a liar. How to unmask a liar. If English isn't your first language, that means how to discover that somebody is lying. We're going to be covering a few things today. So there's two different ways. There's the old way that nobody uses anymore, or people don't use so much. It's even illegal in some countries, of unmasking liars. And there's the new way, really effective. I'm going to show you these two ways, and I'm also going to show you a demonstration of each. Doing some slightly shitty acting, but I'll show you what we've managed to come up with. So I'll show you a demonstration of each, and I'll show you both of these methods. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you two techniques on linked to psychology on how to unmask liars. So let's start with the first one, the old method. The old method comes from a book called the Reid Technique, or the Reid Manual. So this was popular in the 1950s all the way up to the 1990s. It still exists in some countries, like after the 1990s, but it's not that popular anymore. So what was the Reid Technique? So it was mainly used in interrogations, in police situations. And so it was based on the psychology of the time, created by a psychologist called Reid, and it really put a lot of emphasis on intimidation, and really scaring the other people, trying to extract confessions from people. And it also put a lot of emphasis on body language, your intonation, and all these things, like if you touch your nose, if you look up to the left or the right, all these things. But with time we discovered that these things aren't so indicative of lying. Many people, even truth tellers, start to feel a bit agitated at times, and you can't really rely on this method too much. So let me show you a little demonstration of what the Reid technique would have looked like, and then I'll show you the really modern, effective way at unmasking liars, which is based on spatio-temporal information. But I'll tell you about this in a second, what the whole spatio-temporal information is. First, I'll show you the Reid technique, and hope you enjoy this little demonstration. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, guys. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And so that was how it used to be. And then somebody that's essentially, whether you thought that it was like your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or wife, or some who was possibly telling lies, then you would be really examining their body language, the way they're speaking, and this, you would be really taking notes, and this is what happened in police in detective situations, interrogation situations, the detective would be taking notes of like the person looked up to the left and all this kind of stuff. Instead, nowadays we focus entirely, or not entirely, but mostly on spatio-temporal information to unmask liars. What does that mean? It means that you will get asked if you're a suspect. First, there's none of this intimidation. Quite often they will even tell you that you're not a suspect, that you're just a witness and they just want information from you. The whole idea is to create a nice, relaxed environment where you're just going to give more and more information. That's what they want from you. And the idea is that they'll be asking you, like detectives, interrogators, or even people who just know this technique, will be asking you loads of spatial-temporal information. What does that mean? It's information about space and time. Meaning, if you're making up a story saying that you went to the restaurant, the person will say, okay, cool, what time did you go to the restaurant? Where were you sitting? Who was sitting next to you? What did you order? When did you order it? And you quickly realise that if this is all bullshit that you're making up, either you are token and you're able to create a great fantasy universe, or most of us will just fry our brains because you can't keep up with all the lies. And so that's the idea. You just keep on asking the other person, and so the person's like having to go deeper and deeper into their nonsense of, oh yeah, I was at the restaurant, there was people sitting there, and then the person says, when did they leave? What did they look like? And then you're having to give all this information, remember all this information about time and space, and most people just can't, find it difficult to create this alternative universe, essentially. And that's when they get all flustered and they start not making sense, and you can start to like wedge into their bullshit. But anyway, let me give you a little taste of what that would be like, and hope you enjoy it. Again, make allowances for the non-professional the non-professional acting, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes just to wrap this up. Hope you enjoy it. That's perfect. So, is everything okay?
Yeah.
You sitting here? That's nice. So you're not a suspect, you're just a witness, and we just need some questions. We just need some answers from you. Just some answers. Where were you last night?
At home.
Okay. And what time was that? When did you arrive home from work?
At 6.
Okay, 6 o'clock. And what did you do when you came home?
Start preparing my dinner.
Okay, preparing dinner. So what did you have for dinner?
Smoked salmon.
You had smoked salmon. You got it from what shop, sorry?
From Manor.
Manor. How much did that cost? It's very expensive, Manor, isn't it?
Depends.
So how much was the smoked salmon?
10 francs.
10 francs exactly?
Yeah.
Okay. Then after you had the smoked salmon, what did you do after?
I just watched a movie.
What movie did you watch?
Identification on board.
Identification of Who plays in that?
I think Matt Damon.
Identity. Okay, welcome back. Let's just sum this up. I hope you enjoyed that. And in the second case, in this essentially what would be modern day investigation, or a modern way to unmask liars, we would be taking notes, and of course there would be like, you know, voice recorders and cameras and everything, but the detective or the interrogator would also be really taking notes about space and time. As I said, with the whole idea that if you get asked loads and loads of questions, you'll just eventually fry your brain because you can't keep up with all the nonsense that you're saying. Two things that I want to tell you just as closing statements. And I thought they were so interesting, and they're things that are obviously not advertised for obvious reasons, because like, you know, the police systems, they don't want to advertise these things too much. Liar language. The first thing is about liar language. This is something for you to remember. Liar language is that quite often if you ask a person who's lying a direct question, lying is a taxing activity. It's effortful for most people to lie. We feel so much more relaxed telling the truth. So that's why liars will quite often give you half-truths, because it's just more natural. So if you ask somebody, and this really happened, in a police station in Glasgow. Did you have a weapon? This is like my professor, who's a professor of forensic psychology, and would get invited over to police stations to help solve situations. And one time somebody got asked, did you have a weapon? And the person answers, I didn't have any gun. I didn't have any gun. And you know, the question was, did you have a weapon? The person says, no, I had no gun. And then it turns out, because yeah, they actually did have a massive knife. And so if you ask a liar, it's just a little example that people would feel so much more relaxing. I didn't have any gun. And then quite often these half-truths, if they don't quite match the question, they can be very revealing. Second thing I want to tell you is liar memory. And this is so interesting. This will be the closing thing that I tell you. Liar memory, what is that? Is that if you ask a normal truth teller person about, like, you know, what did you do last night? Where were you? Were you at the restaurant? Blah. You get them to come back 1 week later. The light's gone a bit crazy. You get them to come back 1 week later, and a truth teller will remember approximately 50%. It obviously changes depending on the person, depending on the situation. There's a bit of noise. It changes depending on the person, depending on the situation that is being investigated, but a normal truth teller person, about 1 week later, 2 weeks later, will remember 50%, meaning they'll just, half of what they said will just get lost. A liar, and this is like the really interesting thing, a liar, you bring them back after a week, you bring them back after 2 weeks, they'll remember 80%. What does that mean? Maybe, and there's like different theories about this, but one theory is that because the liar has had to create all this, essentially this world from scratch, maybe it's better encoded into memory, so maybe they'll remember it better. And so that's also revealing. So you bring back a liar and they'll remember their lies much, much better than the truth teller remembers the truth. I thought that was interesting. So on that note, I hope you found that interesting. This is part of this mini psychology series that I'm running, and yeah, this riveting psychology series. So I hope you enjoyed that. Remember to stay hydrated. It's very, very important to stay hydrated. I like to hydrate myself with some Isle of Harris gin. And yeah, stay safe and see you soon next time.